the depths of the caverns of Mustafar, while Vader is bleeding his lightsaber crystal, he receives many visions of things that could have been. He hears voices of those who had passed into the Force, such as his mother and his wife. Vader endures pain and their deaths for a second time, crying out in frustration and anguish. He experiences his battle with Obi-Wan again, and his lightsaber turns crimson due to the emotional turmoil within Vader's heart. In this scenario, though, the process of reliving all of these old traumas breaks Vader's mind. Seeing Padme and Shmi again pushes him into the state of desperation, and his soul is shattered. Vader, from this point forward, makes the decision that he's going to try and bring Padme back using dark side alchemy, and that he would not be telling his master. Vader makes a point then and there to bring his wife back from the dead. Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Vader had tried to bring Padme back to life? Have you ever thought about the possibility of him diving deep into the dark arts, searching for a solution to bring his beloved wife back from the dead? Well, if you have, folks, then today's video is for you. So I would recommend settling in with a bowl of my renowned bantha stew and a glass of bantha brew, and let's get right into today's video. What if Vader tried to bring back Padme? After bleeding his saber crystal on Mustafar, Vader goes back to Coruscant as a fully minted Sith Lord, and he starts conducting his tasks that Palpatine gives him as an enforcer. During his downtime, however, Vader has a new obsession. He was going to bring his wife back to life. In his official duties to the Empire, Vader conducts his duties without flaw. He trains the Inquisitors, and he entertains Sidious's tests for him, such as when he has to battle the cyborg creations created by the Emperor's servant Silo V. Another activity that he engages in during his spare time is when Vader asks Tarkin to hunt him on Shandar's Folly, as we can see in the Vader comics. He also hunts down Jedi that he finds to be hiding in the galaxy, killing them with his dark side prowess. When Vader is not attending to the Empire's needs, however, he dives deep into ancient Sith texts to research what his predecessors had found out about the issue regarding eternal life. He discovers more about figures like Revan and Vitiate. He also learns about the theoretical idea of essence travel, seeing that powerful Sith of old were able to inhabit their tombs and various host bodies with their own consciousness. Vader discovers massive amounts of data about how to keep somebody else alive, along with how to preserve his own body. However, there is extremely limited information about how to bring somebody who is already dead back to life. One of the bits that Vader does find, however, are writings about the ancient Night Sister witches of Dathomir, who had discovered how to use the Force both to preserve their essences and to bring people back to the realm of the living. Vader leaves Coruscant, and he tells Sidious that he's going on a small pilgrimage to learn more about the Sith and how to better himself as a darkside user. While Sidious is suspicious, he is pleased that his apprentice has taken such interest in Sith history. He entertains Vader's ambitions, hoping that Vader will be even more frightening when he returns. Sidious senses no deception in Vader, though, because Vader tells him the truth. He is going on a learning excursion. However, Vader doesn't tell his master all of the details. He leaves Coruscant and goes to Dathomir to discover more secrets of the Force. Vader meditates as he travels, hoping to sense something about Dathomir in his future. However, nothing comes, and Vader simply sits, brooding, thinking about Padme and the revenge that he wanted to take on those who took her from him. When Vader finally lands on the small Outer Rim world, he can sense a presence that feels oddly familiar, but it isn't one that he had felt before. Vader moves through the fog, hearing the whispers of dead sisters in his mind that haunted the world after Grievous's massacre during the Clone Wars. He can hear them chanting, whispering, talking to him through the Force, but he doesn't understand what they're saying. To him, the mysteries of the Night Sisters remain just that. Hidden shadows veiled behind the green smoke of the planet. Vader continues onwards, hoping to find something in the catacombs when he arrives at the massive mountains of Dathomir. He uses the Force to push away a stone at the gate that held the secrets to the Night Sister lore and history below the surface. Vader enters the caverns, and he walks through them, igniting his lightsaber for guidance. A crimson hue lights the walls, and Vader continues on his journey, continuing to sense that familiar presence feel closer, closer, and closer, but he still can't put his finger on who that presence is. Eventually, Vader emerges into the massive cave in which the Night Sisters conducted many of their rituals. It held a table, the sacrifice table, and there were also many strange ponds that were polluted by green force liquid. Vader continues to look around, but he doesn't seem to find any books. Every mention of the Night Sisters, everything that should be here, every piece of text and written history, it was all just gone, disappeared, vanished. Perhaps it was by some miracle of the Force, but Vader didn't think so. He continues to walk through the catacombs, and he continues to listen to the whispers of the Night Sisters in his mind's ear. As Vader returns to the tunnels, he hears a strange pitter-patter of feet on the floor nearby. He turns his lightsaber, looking over his shoulder, back and forth, thinking that there must be somebody nearby. "Who's there?" groans Vader, becoming angrier and angrier. He clenches his fist, hoping that whoever was in the shadows would reveal themselves to him. Vader continues searching, determined now to try and find whoever had been following him in the shadows. Nobody followed the Dark Lord of the Sith without permission. Vader thinks that perhaps he's hearing things, and he continues to walk through the catacombs. As he's traveling, he stumbles across a strange room filled with peculiar artifacts. It looked as though somebody had been living here and assembling an odd collection of assorted goods from their life. Many of the Night Sister magic books were there, and Vader could see now why he hadn't been able to find any in the tomb. He looks around, hoping to see whoever lived there. Then, he looks over his shoulder, and he sees the legendary Darksaber resting on a stand nearby. Vader walks over, and he picks it up, igniting the blade. Suddenly, out of the shadows, a Dathomirian man emerges, growling at Vader, telling him to drop the Darksaber. Immediately, Vader reaches out with a force and grabs this individual's neck, choking the strange Dathomirian man who had attacked him, or rather, had tried to attack him. Vader looks into this man's yellow, deranged eyes, and he asks who he is. However, after further inspection, he already knew who the man was. Vader drops him, realizing that this was the Maul figure that Obi-Wan had told him about all those years ago. Maul, the Sith Lord, the reject of Sidious, the criminal mastermind who was building his empire in the shadows and who had slain the romantic interest of the great General Kenobi, causing him heartbreak and turmoil that would continue to ravage his soul for years. Vader asks the Dathomirian why he's here, what he's doing in this strange room, and what these artifacts all mean. Maul asks Vader the same question, and Vader responds by telling Maul that it was none of his business. He proceeds to ignite his lightsaber and tells Maul that he's going to slaughter him mercilessly if he doesn't give him an answer. Maul looks back at Vader and smiles, telling him that he can sense turmoil within the Dark Lord's soul, turmoil that he had experienced for many, many years. Vader hesitates for a moment, and he asks what Maul meant by that. Maul then tells him the stories of Palpatine and how he had thrown him into the shadows, then how he had lost his criminal syndicate, and how now he was stuck here on Dathomir, plotting his revenge against Obi-Wan Kenobi. Vader can get behind this, saying that he too did not enjoy the idea of any Jedi running around in the galaxy. Maul says that then perhaps they could help each other. He tells Vader that he will teach him the ways of the Night Sister magic, because clearly that's the only reason that anybody would come to this old backwater world. Vader looks at Maul, thinking about his offer. He senses no deception in the Dathomirian, but then again, Sidious had sensed none in him when he had gone on his quest. Eventually, Vader decides that even if Maul did try to betray him, he could simply kill the man from the shadows, and he could still emerge on top, successful and having learned the secrets to bringing back Padmé Amidala. Vader agrees, and he tells Maul that he will train with him. Maul is ecstatic, pleased to finally have somebody to share his knowledge of the Force with after all these years. Vader, unmoved, simply walks behind the Dathomirian, hoping to find out more very quickly so that he could return to Naboo and bring Padmé back to life. Together, Maul and Vader work in the shadows. They read the ancient Night Sister texts, looking at Maul's books and learning secrets to how they operated and what their magic entailed. Vader and Maul also work to reanimate some of the old Night Sister bodies that are in the catacombs together, and sure enough, they have some success. Vader is optimistic, seeing that after bringing back a Night Sister with the Force, the possibility was there that he truly could bring Padmé back to life, and he could have his wife again. Vader looks at Maul, and he asks him if this is possible again, and if he really could bring Padmé back to life. Maul smiles, saying that yes, he certainly could, and that together they would cast the spell that would resurrect her, and she would be in Vader's arms soon enough. This is enough for the Dark Lord to continue training. They keep working on old Night Sister bodies, and they keep resurrecting them, illustrating the true power of the green mist that they had harnessed. Vader remembers stories of the old Mother Talzin from when he was at the Jedi Temple, and how immense her power had been. He also remembers hearing Sidious talk about her, and how she seemed to be one of the few Force users that he had had a legitimate fear of. She had posed a threat to his regime on the galaxy. Anakin now understood why. The Night Sister magic was powerful, and it certainly held the secrets to immortality that Sidious had been looking for years. Why he hadn't touched it, Vader couldn't fathom. But now, he saw. And with this Night Sister magic, perhaps one day he could even overthrow his Emperor and become the ruler of the galaxy himself. Vader smiles for the first time in many, many years as he imagines a future with Padmé, with her by his side, Emperor and Empress molding the galaxy together in their image. Finally, that was a possibility, and Vader saw that now. After months of training, the pair finally feel ready to go and accomplish Vader's mission. Vader says that he will help Maul track down Obi-Wan Kenobi following their excursion, and Maul tells Vader that he looks forward to seeing the old Dathomir witch in action in the core of the galaxy. Maul says to Vader that they would have to go straight to Naboo to resurrect Padmé, as they needed her physical body with which to use the incantations. Vader agrees, believing that a trip to Naboo may be painful, but he is willing to do whatever it takes to bring back Padmé from the dead. He looks at Maul, and Maul looks back at him with his deranged eyes. Vader knows that the Dathomirian is crazy, but he had taught him a lot about the nature of the Force and the ways of the Night Sisters of Dathomir. For that, Vader was grateful, and even if Maul did have something up his sleeve, Vader would be sure to counter it, having the capacity to snap Maul's neck at any moment. He knows that he's the more powerful Force user, and that even if Maul did know the secrets of the witches of Dathomir, Vader still had that pure, brute force and anger within his soul. He also knew that he had the powers of the Chosen One inside of him, something that Maul could never even dream of. Vader and Maul travel in their respective ships to Naboo, each meditating in the process. In this case, Vader can hear the screams and the ancient spells of the Night Sisters being recited over and over and over again in his mind. He can hear Talzin and sees the vision of what once was on Dathomir in his head. And Vader knows that now he could bring back that legacy, relive the Night Sisters' dream, and show the galaxy the true power of the Force by combining his dark side training with the Night Sister magic. Soon, Padmé would be by his side once again, and together they would rule the galaxy. Maul, on the other hand, sees angry visions of his past. He sees Obi-Wan Kenobi slicing him in half. He remembers his time going insane on the junkyard world of Lotho Minor. He relives the pain of feeling his mind being brought back by Mother Talzin, and he sees his brother once again in his mind's eye. He then sees Sidious mercilessly kill him, and he feels his heart break. He knows that he must get revenge on all of the people who tried to hurt him, starting with Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was the first step in his plan towards something greater. When Maul and Vader arrive on Naboo, it's dark, cloudy, and stormy. Vader lands his shuttle near Padmé's grave, and he walks slowly towards it, seeing that Maul is already there. He begins to mentally prepare himself for what is about to happen. He sees the darkness, the storm swelling in the skies above. Maul is waiting, and together they enter the public vigil to Padmé. It's an incredible space filled with plaques regarding things that had happened during her life and talking about her dedication to public service. Vader almost sheds a tear as he reads about these things that she did for her people and remembers how good of a person she had been, how dedicated she was to preserving the Republic and to democracy, and how much of a family woman that she would have been. Vader remembers how dedicated she had been to the children that hadn't even been born yet, and a tear starts to roll down his face. However, he keeps composed, and he looks at Maul, who asks if he is ready to do the unthinkable. Vader says nothing, merely nodding. Both of them are ready to bring back his wife. Vader and Maul begin the ancient incantation. They take a few minutes to dive into the full spell of the sisters, and Vader can feel the Night Sister magic pulsing through his veins. His heart races. He desperately hopes that this will be successful, but he can sense that it will be, because he knows that feeling inside of him when the Night Sister magic is working its wonders. Eventually, green smoke starts to emanate from the tomb. Vader then uses the Force to raise the lid. He sees Padmé there, and he starts to see her stomach rising and falling. He calls her name, hoping to hear the voice of his dead wife. However, in that last instant, Maul changes the words of the incantation. Vader shoots a glance at him and asks what he's doing, but Maul simply cackles, finishing the spell on a different note. He then looks back at Padmé. Her eyes shoot open, filled with the green smoke of the Night Sisters. She lets out a guttural screech like the zombie sisters from Dathomir that Vader had heard in his head so many times during his visit to the planet. Vader is shocked. This wasn't Padmé, this was an abomination. Vader looks over at Maul, who has a maniacal smile growing on his face. Maul cackles, muttering to himself about his plan working. Vader asks him what plan, and asks what he had done to the spell to change Padmé into the monster that he saw before him. And Maul says that he'll finally be able to get revenge on his old master and Kenobi by himself. In addition, he could finally get rid of Vader, his replacement. Maul commands Padmé to attack Vader. It all made sense to the Dark Lord now. Maul had never wanted to train him. He simply needed him to resurrect Padmé so that she could get revenge on him for Maul. In addition, he had changed the words of the spell at the end of the incantation so that rather than do what they had practiced on the Night Sister bodies, instead, this was what was created. Some old soul, a spirit that wasn't Padmé's being imbued inside of her body. Vader has to resist the urge to hurt his wife. He pushes her to the side with the Force and holds her against the wall, looking towards Maul with a lightsaber in hand, the crimson crackling underneath the rain of Naboo. Vader tells Maul that he'll regret his actions, and Maul ignites his double-bladed saber, saying that he doesn't think so. Maul charges at Vader, who has to deflect his strange fighting style. He's not used to the double blades. However, he is the Dark Lord of the Sith. So, with his power, he's able to hold back Maul while simultaneously struggling to hold on to the zombie Padmé with his hand in the Force. Maul uses his double saber to catch Vader off guard. He slices a hole in his mask, revealing those dark, yellow Sith eyes. Finally, Vader is done. He's finished with Maul's games. He drops Padme and he focuses all of his attention on Maul, gazing at him with his eyes just like he did to Ahsoka and to Kenobi during Rebels and the Kenobi show. He battles Maul ferociously, eventually slicing his double-bladed saber in two. He corners Maul against the side of the tomb. However, just as Vader is about to slay his opponent, Padme jumps on his back, clawing at his suit and his life support. Vader once again uses the Force to push her away. He tries to reason with her, but Maul just laughs. This was the price that the dead paid for Night Sister magic. They were forever bound to the sisterhood. Vader's infuriated. He grows tired of Maul's games once again. He picks up the Dathomirian with the Force and chokes him, just like he had when he first saw him in those caverns many months ago. Maul is cackling the entire time. Even if he didn't get his revenge on Palpatine, he still would have tried. Even if Kenobi still lived, at least Maul had done everything he could to try and get his revenge, avenging Savage and avenging himself. He attempts to appeal to Vader, saying that they could hunt down and eliminate the elusive Kenobi together and exact their revenge. However, Vader had had enough. He didn't trust this Dathomirian anymore. He tells Maul that he will die like the rat that he is before snapping his neck, shoving him to the floor with the Force. Vader then turns to Padme, who is still in an infuriated Night Sister-induced rage. Vader resigns to the fact that this wasn't his wife. It's a perversion in the Force within her body. So, remorsefully, Vader stabs Padme, and he can feel the Night Sister magic draining from her body. In that moment, as Padme's body falls into Vader's arms, another piece of Anakin Skywalker died. He places her back in the tomb, ensuring that everything is pristine. He puts her hands over her chest and makes sure that Padme looks just as pretty as she had when he had opened the lid. Then he turns his back, piecing together the tomb of his dead wife. He makes it pristine, knowing that he had defiled her grave. And as he walks away, a small sense of remorse rushes through him, but it only lasts a moment before it's replaced with the pain of grief once more. For a moment, the Dark Lord sits on his knees by the tomb, immersed in his dark emotions. Then, after a moment of reflection, Vader rises and returns to Coruscant. Another piece of him dies, replaced by the dark, brooding Sith Lord Vader. As it turns out, Vader had ended up going on a spiritual pilgrimage in the ways of the Sith, just not in the way that he was expecting. When he returns to Palpatine, and when Palpatine asks if he had learned anything, Vader says that he had. He doesn't tell him about the Night Sister magic, but Sidious can sense a dark change in his apprentice, and he can feel the presence of more pain than he could use to control Vader in the future with. Palpatine laughs, telling Vader that he had done well, and that the Sith of old would be proud. Despite the loss of Maul, Vader continues to practice the ways of the Night Sisters in his spare time, along with his Sith arts. He's eventually powerful enough to challenge Palpatine in a typical rule of two fashion, and he kills his master, becoming the new Emperor of the Galaxy. Vader finds a new apprentice, Starkiller, and he brings him up to be a powerful Sith, just like Palpatine had with him. Vader cracks down on slavery as the Emperor, along with organized crime, and he brings more organization to the Imperial military. No longer would it just be a bunch of mafia bosses jockeying for power. Instead, things would be centralized, and corrupt officers would be punished. The military looks much more like it did during the days of the Clone Wars. While Vader rules, his old self dies. Anakin is forever gone, and Vader realizes that no matter how hard he tries, he will never be able to get Padme back. He may be the ruler of the galaxy. He may have achieved the title of Emperor and done many things to ensure peace, stability, and order. But he would always be a broken Sith Lord, with nobody to love him. Anakin is gone, and Vader is all alone. Hey there, Bantha Crew. Here's a little section from our Ask Anything segment on the Discord server. Today's question is, what are my favorite and least favorite parts of making What Ifs? Honestly, I would say that my favorite parts are coming out with the stories. looking into the lore and figuring out exactly how things should proceed, while also simultaneously using my creative brain to think of things that could happen in the Star Wars universe and trying to make it as appealing as possible to the fans. I really love that part, and the writing of the stories along with the recording is also quite fun. Just that whole process really invigorates me, and I really enjoy it. My least favorite part of making What Ifs is, honestly, probably dealing with some of the more negative comments I see. I know that a lot of folks are providing constructive criticism, and it comes from a place of passion. However, it's sometimes difficult reading through some of the negative comments, just being a person who enjoys being a little bit of a perfectionist sometimes. So the negative comments can be a little bit draining. And I will say, I appreciate any comment, especially if it is constructive criticism. It's always great to read what you have to say, especially knowing that you guys are passionate fans and always have really interesting takes that I love seeing. It's just that some comments sometimes can take me a little bit off guard. However, I really enjoy engaging with you guys, and it's fun to be able to be a leader in the Star Wars community, even if it's a small leader at the moment. I'm still out there making content for everyone, and I really enjoy that. It's a blast, and I'm glad that you guys are along for this wild and wacky ride through my Star Wars journey as well. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you coming out and clicking on this video. If you enjoyed this video, I would recommend checking out this other video. What if the 501st removed their inhibitor chips? If you guys are interested in interacting with me personally more, along with the fantastic community that we're starting to develop, I would recommend joining the Discord server. It's a great place for everyone to get connected, leave me these questions for the Ask Anythings, and also just have a positive community for Star Wars conversations. Finally, folks, I hope that you're all having a bantha-tacular day, and I also hope that you've had your daily delicious dose of Bantha Stew.